Hello there guys, welcome to another BLT recap and analysis. This one is going to be a little bit different from all my other ones because I did play doubles this week because I wanted to give some of my teammates a chance to play Ubers, and nobody really wanted to play doubles because it was against Miltank Milk, who was the esteemed SPL player. But I did end up picking up a win with some creative team building and all around solid plays. So I thought I played really well, and I did pick up the W for my troubles. And so we'll start with the team, because I think this is pretty much where I really succeeded. And a lot of what I had to do for the prep here was I decided that I started with the Gengar, and because I felt that a lot of my success, if I were to come off success, is predicting doubles and playing really hard around Gengar, because Gengar is such a strong Pokemon in the sense that you can force people into situations where they cannot win, possibly. Like, they can't predict and stuff because of how Gengar's like Shadow Tag works, and they're forced into situations where they just lose. And what a lot of the Pokemon that I saw him using were very weak to Terrakion in general, because Terrakion really needs Terrakion is like not strong by itself generally, but if it gets the right support, then it can be extremely successful. And this is really shown because its dual stabs are very strong in doubles because of its because of access to a lot of Pokemon that are common are weak to these stabs, like Tyranitar, like Zapdos, like Snorlax, and even Pokemon that aren't weak to them take a lot. Like, for example, Hoopa is pretty common as well, and it takes like a very big solid chunk from it. And also Pokemon like Kyurem Black and some other options are a little bit more niche, like Zardwai. Well, I guess Zardwai isn't as niche, but like not as common in that sense. And and also Pokemon like Heatran. So I was expecting something to be brought of this type, and Gengar is like a very good partner because Terrakion can. It has also a lot of disadvantageous matchups, which is mainly Landorus-Therian, which it really struggles against because, I mean, I could have ran HP Ice in the slot over Toxic, but Landorus-Therian provides like a huge weakness for Terrakion because it lowers its attack and it doesn't take much from either of its stabs. But I wanted to play a lot on Terrakion's strengths rather than its weaknesses. And then Gengar is a very good partner because with Icy Wind, it can neuter a lot of Terrakion's big weaknesses. Like, if Terrakion protects on the turn, Gengar goes for Icy Wind, it can slow Pokemon down, like Mega Mence and Tapu Koko and these Pokemon, and then thus proceed to like set up a good opportunity for Terrakion to win. And Gengar also hits all the Pokemon that Terrakion can't, so like Mega Mence, because of the Intimidate and stuff, and that with the Icy Wind, and also like Tapu Koko, Tapu Fini, Tapu Bulu, and like these Pokemon that Terrakion is like typically known to struggle against, and the Landorus-Therian, of course, with the Icy Wind. And then Sub Protect is chosen because I want because Gengar is often also put into disadvantageous situations, but if Terrakion is given extra turns to put these Pokemon into more of a, like, because Sub will still keep the Shadow Tag in play, so Terrakion can get more turns to then like bully Pokemon out. And then after this, I chose Landorus as my third Pokemon because I wanted help against opposing Landorus, and I chose a special variant of Landorus because it then helps versus Pokemon like Excadrill and opposing Landorus. Well, I knew I wanted an HP Ice variant, but then I was then very weak to just like, because Gengar and Terrakion are both ground weak, I needed to pretty much patch up this weakness. So Landorus and Tapu Bulu were chosen as like my way to wrap up this weakness, and the Assault Vest Tapu Bulu along with the EV spread. These two are standard. The EV spread for Tapu Bulu is extremely good. Like, it's the way it's EV'd is so that it will outspeed standard Fini at 100 speed while maintaining as much bulk and attack as possible. And then the move spread is Nature's Madness, which is like to threaten Pokemon that it can't really hit hard. Wood Hammer to just be to hit strong. Horn Leech, and then Stone Edge is for Zard Y, which my team could potentially struggle with if Tyranitar gets weakened or if it's running like Focus Blast or something. So Bulu is very strong in that sense. It also provides Grassy Terrain, which provides like nice recovery, as well as like it patches up Earthquake weaknesses. So a lot of the common ground type Pokemon outside of Zygarde are really threatened. But Zygarde is patched by the Landorus weakness. Specifically, this spread of Landorus is really good because it'll 2-hit KO Zygarde after lefty's recovery, guaranteed with HP Ice, as well as OHKOing Excadrill after helmet damage. I originally was going to run like a Z move to threaten Snorlax more, but then I realized that with Terrakion and Tyranitar, it's generally fine to not run this, and then U-turn helps versus Hoopa, which like I can't like I'm like pretty scared of, because if he did choose to run Hoopa, then it could be extremely threatening since Gengar can't really hit it very hard. Terrakion hits it, but then it gets OHKO'd in return, and then like Landorus, if it's special, won't be able to touch it, and then so it really helps versus those matchups, and HP. Essentially, I was prepping really hard for Excadrill, Zapdos, which he didn't, but it didn't end up bringing either of these mons, and Hoopa, because these three are like very common in his replays. So I just felt that those are Pokemon that I needed to be prepared for. And Landorus, special Landorus-Therian also covers the Landorus matchup a little bit better, since it gets punished on the U-turn, unlike Bulu, which like Bulu doesn't take much from Rock Slide or Earthquake, but it does get punished on the U-turn because it'll take like 20 for like, and then he'll get momentum because he'll probably bring in like a Tapu form, or he'll bring in like something that can deal with Bulu well. And then Tyranitar was chosen in the fifth slot because it's pressure versus opposing Pokemon, namely like Gengar and Hoopa and a lot of these psychic types, as well as like Zard Y, which I like was building up a pretty big weakness to, because Terrakion's not a reliable switch in, and then Bulu pretty much loses to it if it's in Sun and stuff. So it would be relatively threatening, especially if it was a flamethrower variant. So Tyranitar was chosen in this slot. It also provides like crucial dark resists and like flying resists, and just like to be solid in general. So it helps a lot versus like the Side Spam matchup, which I would lose to otherwise. I also added Aegislash to help versus this matchup because Deoxys attack would be extremely threatening, even though it'd probably be running Superpower for Tyranitar anyway. But it helps versus these matchups a lot, and then like versus stuff like Alola like anything that sets weather, like Tyranitar also has the chip damage, so a lot of KOs are easier to get with the stand up, which like might seem kind of like stupid or like retarded or whatever, but like it actually does help a lot. And Banded Superpower is also really nice just because it'll hit really hard against Pokemon like Heatran and whatnot to get important KOs. And also versus Zapdos, which is another Pokemon that, like I said, I was prepping really hard for. And Tyranitar has really high natural bulk, which is one of the reasons why I really like it, because you can play more recklessly with it, since it can switch into most things very reliably, regardless of like it, like even if it just like resists. It also helps versus like Heatran, which my team doesn't do super well against, except for like Landorus, and still it's not like super solid because if they're running Shuca, then it doesn't even OHKO with Earth Power or like bulky spreads. And then Aegislash was chosen in the last slot because it helps versus a lot of the Side Spam, which, like I said, I was weak to, namely Deoxys attack, which is really scary for me at this point, as well as like just in general, knockoff is generally pretty threatening to my team, since nothing really wants to be losing their item or like just like take stuff. So it helps versus knockoff because of the Ghostium, like as in it can stay in and like Scrafty and this kind of stuff to fake out, as well as helping against the Bronzong matchup, the Trick Room matchup, because AG can like threaten them with the Z move, and it just like in general is very good because like you'll see the Z Shadow Ball pretty much threatens the majority of the meta very hard, and Lele is kind of an issue for my team as well, so it kind of just like patches a bunch of weaknesses up, and Wide Guard can also help a lot to just make plays rather than being forced into like bad situations. So with that in mind, we can just go into the replay and see how the game went down. All right, oops, that was, it was on play. All right, so just from team select, you can see his team. Heracross is a very big threat to my team because Bulu loses to it. All I can do is really weaken it, and also the recovery that it gets is pretty nice from the grassy terrain, so it's actually like beneficial for him to have grassy terrain up. And then T-Tar just loses to it. I can't really touch it with Landorus. Gengar can do a decent amount of damage, but like not that much. And AG is the really only one that can beat it. And then Terrakion does a little bit to it, but it gets OHKO'd back by close combat. So all Pokemon are very threatened other than Aegislash, and that's not a good thing. Tapu Koko, it removes grassy terrain, which is like relatively bad for my team, but it also doesn't do much back to my team outside of possibly winning the speed tie against Gengar and KOing it, doing like a decent amount of damage to Terrakion, but like not really. Kyurem Black is pretty much useless against my team, with the only since it can only really hit Landorus and Bulu, and all of my Pokemon are like can like somewhat reliably beat it. Heatran, not super threatening, and the Cresselia, like I'm not too scared of Cresselia either because I have AG, I have the Tyranitar, I have the Gengar and whatnot. So pretty like I'm really scared of Hera just from team select, but everything else is like manageable level. So let's just start the replay. So he leads off with Lando and Heracross, which is for me. Let's switch sides. For me, the beginning of this is really bad because wait, okay, fuck, wait. All right, so the beginning is really bad because I get a really bad matchup. Both of the Pokemon that I send in can't deal with Heracross at all, and then Landorus is obviously super threatening because Landorus is in general threatening to my team, but I have the Shuca Berry on Terrakion. Getting Toxic off here is not important because Hera, it could be important against Hera, but Terrakion is very good in this matchup because they have Heatran and you want to get the Toxic off on Cresselia as well. And he has the Kyurem Black, so I want to save Terrakion just off the bat. And so risking the potential close combat from Hera isn't worth. And Bulu is important in this matchup to be setting grassy terrain, but outside of setting grassy terrain, it's not like super good. So I wanted to go for damage on Landorus because if it gets damaged, I can see the set, and it ends up being Scarf, which is like pretty much the most standard one. But if he did end up going for like Superpower or like he was a different set, it could have been potentially threatening. He ends up getting out of there, but the potential here is really bad for me because I'm in a losing matchup just off the bat because Terrakion can't really threaten them, and Bulu doesn't do much outside of possibly getting like a Nature's Madness off or damaging Lando. So I just Wood Hammer to Scout on Bulu and then switch into Aegislash because I know that Aegislash is the only Pokemon that can deal with Heracross, and even if Landorus goes for Earthquake here, it's either A, choice locked into Earthquake, or B, it's also not going to do very much to all my Pokemon because Aegislash is like has 252 HP and it's in grassy terrain. So I'm not too worried about the possibilities, but he ends up U-turning out. And he goes to Heatran while and Bulu takes like a big pin missile, and I don't do much to Heatran. I switch out into Landorus here, predicting him to go for Heat Wave on Heatran, and hitting Landorus with like pin missile or something. So, or like a flamethrower on AG, because I feel like I thought that he would think that Aegi was a lot more threatening. He ends up going to try to finish off Bulu. He Rocks Blasts Landorus. I'm assuming he predicted Landorus coming in. And then he Flamethrowers Landorus. Landorus lives here because of the amount of investment I put into it. So I'm pretty sure he was predicting Lander to come in. Or something because of the play that he made. But he ends up actually trading his Heracross for this, which in my opinion was like a bad play by him because he was in an advantageous position with Hera since it threatened the majority of my team. With like Hera Heatran out, pretty much I have no switch-in since Aegi gets threatened by Heatran. So I have like he's hugely advantageous in this situation, but he ends up trading his Hera for it, which is like not a good move on his part because the only way I could have killed Hera potentially is Aegislash in one hit. The only other options I had is like weakening it with Aegislash and then getting Gengar in and getting a Sludge Bomb or something, or I Nature's Madness and then play with the Z move. I play with the Shadow Ball on Aegi and then like I could potentially kill it, but like it's not reliable in the sense that it could easily like go off and get a couple kills this game. So I felt that was a misplay on his part. Landorus not extremely necessary in my overall game scheme. It's very good versus his team in the sense that it can threaten Heatran and it can threaten Lando and is a reliable answer to Lando. So without the HP, it's no longer a reliable answer to Lando. But since he did reveal Scarf, it's not a huge deal because with Scarf Lando, it's easier to play around with the grassy terrain, with the protects, and it's easy to scout what it needs, what it can and can't do. So it wasn't a huge issue that Lando's HP got reduced. So here, he goes to Lando, and I switch Aegi out because I know that regardless of what happens, Aegi is going to be in a disadvantageous situation. I wanted to preserve Aegi's HP for Pokemon like Kyurem Black, for the Tapu Koko, for the Cresselia, pretty much everything that's not currently on the field. And then I can go ahead and protect on Landorus just because I know it's safe. And I go into Tyranitar because there's almost no reason for him to go for Earthquake in this situation since he would be damaging his own Heatran. And with the Grassy Terrain up, it doesn't do a ton of damage to either to Aegislash or Landorus, and he goes for the U-turn on Landorus. I'm assuming he's predicting that I'm like Choice Scarf for like not I don't know honestly, but like so he goes for a Flamethrower on Tyranitar. It doesn't do it too much, and then this play is like relatively crucial. So he goes. I know he's going to click U-turn on Landorus because he obviously doesn't have another option. He's locked into U-turn. So Landorus, his options, I assume that he wants to kill Landorus because Landorus is threatening to his team. So he's going to U-turn on the Landorus, and then I know for a fact that all of his other 3 Pokemon will be relatively threatened by Tyranitar because Rock Slide does like half of Coco's HP. Crunch can really threaten Cresselia, and Kyurem Black should take a lot. What's surprising, actually, is that... Okay, so he first gets chipped by Landorus, which eventually becomes important. Kyurem actually only takes, like, 38 here, which I was, like, surprised as fuck when this happened. But the fact that Landorus died here was extremely advantageous for me, because this meant that I was put into a very good situation with Terrakion and Tyranitar on the field against his whatever, like his Kyurem Black and his Heatran, and I was pretty much guaranteed to be in a good situation. So he's forced to double switch both of his Pokemon. I end up not making the right prediction, but I get some damage on Landorus, like a lot of damage on Landorus actually, and then I'm forced to switch. I get Grassy Terrain back up on for Bulu. And he goes into Coco, so I don't really get the Grassy Terrain in the end. But the point is that Bulu dies here, which is actually like very, very important to the overall game scheme. the reason why Bulu dying is important is because Bulu didn't do anything in this matchup. It would either just get killed and it would lose momentum, or like he can just ignore it and it'll just like not do anything. Because the most it could do is like threaten Coco, and then like against his other Pokemon, it doesn't really do much either, since it's not carrying Superpower for Heatran or Kyurem Black. So I then get to go Gengar for free, and in this matchup, since he doesn't know my move spread, he should be extremely scared of Gengar. He's then forced to double on Pokemon or possibly get sacked. So on Gengar, I just go for the Sludge Bomb against Coco, and I win the speed type, which is really good for me. And he goes for the Trick Room on Cresselia. Gengar can obviously protect here for free because I don't know what Heatran's going to do, but Heatran's probably going to be hitting Gengar. And for Cresselia, it's really threatening. Like my team is really or not like really threatened by Cresselia, but like it can ignore Cresselia pretty much at this point, since it already did its Trick Room, and I have options to beat it like after the fact. So Cresselia no longer needs to be dealt with right now. It's also trapped inside, so it can't do anything this turn except for like click Ice Beam or whatever. Which is what I was talking about earlier with the Gengar really threatening or forcing your opponents into bad situations. So regardless of how good they play, they're going to like be in a bad situation, like in this scenario. So his Heatran's most likely came in because it wants to threaten my Pokemon with something. So I'm essentially protecting on Gengar to scout, and also because Tyranitar can threaten what he wants to do. So he goes for Eruption, and Tyranitar takes like not that much damage because obviously Tyranitar is bulky as fuck. And I go for the Superpower, which doesn't OHKO. And it's actually like I think he then goes for Earth Power. Let me pause real quick. So this was like pretty much a pivotal turn because he was betting on the fact that Gengar was going to get damaged, since well, he obviously didn't go into Landorus because Trick Room was up, and Heatran will threaten Gengar very hard. So I have Tyranitar threaten Heatran, so that I was hoping that I would OHKO, honestly, but I also wanted to scout what he was going for because Eruption would have like done a very big chunk to Gengar, and I might have lost the game off that. So I get the scout and more damage on Heatran, and also want to run out Trick Room turns as fast as possible. So on this turn, I also go for the close combat on, the Superpower, and I kill Heatran while I go for the Terrakion play, which refreshes my Protect turns, as well as getting Terrakion in, which forces him to go Landorus in this situation because he can't go anything but he's either forced to go Landorus or be forced into a disadvantageous situation with Kyurem Black, which he ends up going Kyurem. I actually didn't calc in this situation, which I probably should have, with like how much defense Kyurem was running and stuff, but I want to preserve Tyranitar because Tyranitar will get Sand back up, and it also beats Cresselia and Kyurem in this situation, so like the only thing that Terrakion does at this point is toxicking Cresselia and then damaging Kyurem, which isn't like a huge deal. So I eventually switch AG in because and go for Protect on Terrakion. This play was safe because so even if he double targeted Tyranitar at that point, so he had either a choice to go for the Terrakion or go for the Tyranitar / whoever's coming in. I'm going to Protect on Terrakion because it's extremely safe. I want to get rid of as many Trick Room turns as possible, and I also want to preserve Terrakion to potentially get a Toxic on Cresselia. He then goes for the Fusion Bolt, and AG takes a little bit of damage, but AG at this point is not extremely important because if I get Toxic on Cresselia, I win no matter what, pretty much. And also, Tyranitar also beats Cresselia, so AG isn't important in the grand scheme of things, except for dealing damage to Kyurem. So, AG is preferred in this situation to, he's running a lot of bulk on Kyurem, so I end up not killing with Flash Cannon, and he trades back with AG. This is like a relatively risky play by me, because what happens is that, I try to go for the double Protect on Terrakion, expecting him to just kill Terrakion, since it's a safer play for him. But he actually goes for the win here, because he doesn't really know what sets I am. But I end up... This turn is extremely pivotal. From his situation, he needs to go for the kill on Aegislash, because the only way that he wins is killing Aegislash, since he's assuming it's Wide Guard Aegi, and Wide Guard Aegi would block anything Landorus does outside of Superpower. He can't be, because he's locked into something. So he needs to kill Aegi, so he goes for the kill on Aegislash, and it works for him. In this scenario, in which on Terrakion I actually killed Kyurem on this turn, I lost because of what you'll see I'll do in a second. But it ends up that I don't lose because of my sets, and Terrakion gets weakened, and then this scenario is perfect for me because I get a free sub on Gengar, and as long as I close combat on whatever slot Kyurem is, because no matter what he does, Gengar's sub is going to stay up. And this is important because if Gengar's sub stays up, then I win, because Landorus can't... Okay, so there's only two situations that can happen. I kill Kyurem this turn, and then Cresselia does whatever the fuck it wants. It doesn't matter at this point, because if it clicks Trick Room, it can't break Gengar's sub, and Landorus is slower than Gengar at this point, and then Landorus dies. Or it clicks Ice Beam on either Pokemon. It doesn't matter because it doesn't kill Terrakion, and it doesn't break Gengar's sub. So, subbing is a 100% play here, and if I close combat on Kyurem's slot, it'll either A, kill Kyurem, or B, kill Landorus. In both situations, I win. So, I had 100% win at this point in the game. So, I just sub. He sacks his Kyurem, which is like the correct play if he didn't know I was sub Gengar. And then he Ice Beams Gengar, doesn't do anything because I'm obviously sub. I protect on Terrakion, he goes for the Earthquake, it only breaks my sub. And I just kill Landorus with the... I actually should have gotten Sludge Bomb here, because if I missed Icy Wind, I would have lost, but that's beside the point. I won anyway. I go for this... Okay, and then from here on out, I just Toxic the Cresselia, and then it just dies eventually. And so, yeah. This is how I beat the SPL player, who I felt like probably just disrespected me. And I think that a lot of what has to do with my victory is the prep. I'll link the team in the description below, but my prep is always very good, I feel, and this team really showed it because I had a lot of... he didn't expect a lot of the sets I was running, and that's kind of where I can pull a lot of my wins from. Like, I pull a lot of my wins from these underused sets that can give me a big advantage in certain situations. And these certain situations were shown in this game. So, the Icy Wind Gengar obviously coming in huge. Or sorry, it didn't come in huge in this game, but Gengar came in huge in general in this game. With the sub, with the protect, it had a lot of situations where it really shined. It also removed Kyoko from the game before Kyoko could really do anything. And then Terrakion, also a very big component of my win, since it got the Toxic on Cresselia at the end, which isn't like hugely important, but it means that Toxic pretty much provided something. And then it also got a lot of damage down on the Landorus, and the potential threat of Terrakion forced him into a lot of bad situations, which is what it kind of was meant to be used for. Tyranitar was also huge in this game. It killed the Heatran. It did it chunked Landorus really hard, so he had to play with Landorus super safe. The Grassy terrain was very useful, and Aegi did its part in this game by pretty much winning the game for me with the Z move at the beginning. I did feel like I kind of just misplayed on like the third to last turn with the one Aegi, and on this turn 11, where Aegi killed itself, and then like I think it was a potentially game-throwing play, but it ended up being okay for me since I didn't like hard throw, in the sense that if I got if I also killed Kyurem in that turn. So it was a super solid win, pretty clean in general. Outside of the only potential thing that could have turned the game around is if I didn't win the speed tie against Coco. Although I don't know if he's running max speed, he probably is. Like, I'm just assuming that he is. But if I didn't win that speed tie, it could have been different because Gengar could have been chipped a lot, and then it would have resulted in possibly a different scenario in the end game. But I felt that I played the game very solid, and I was rewarded as such. So I just want to say GG, and hope you guys enjoyed this video, and this also clinched my team for the playoffs, so we're guaranteed into semifinals, and we'll be back next week with another video. And I think for next week I might be doing stuff like I might be analyzing all of the matches, Uber's matches, or something along those lines for the playoffs, or at least for finals. I'll probably be analyzing multiple matches outside of my own, that is. So I hope you look forward to that, and I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next week for another episode of BLT recap and analysis.